Hey everyone, welcome to Beyond Wilderness, and today we're going to be looking at snorkel equipment. First up, we're going to be looking at protection from the environment. So we're going to be looking at exposure suits. Exposure suits can be a range of materials. Most commonly, they are neoprene. If you're in the tropics, you may well be tempted to wear just board shorts or bathers. There's some benefits that if it's not cold enough to be wearing a wetsuit, you should perhaps be wearing a lycra suit to protect yourself from stingers and sunburn. And it also helps to not necessarily be wearing sunscreen. So if you put on a lycra suit, you don't have to be wearing sunscreen in the water. There's certainly some thoughts that sunscreen's not great for the marine environment, but your options are obviously lycra, and I recommend full-length lycra to protect you from any jellyfish or other stingers. You can then move to neoprene of various thicknesses. So this one is about sort of 3 mil thick all over. They have a range of features, wetsuits. This is what they would call a steamer, which simply means it's full arms and full legs, as opposed to a spring suit, which usually has short legs on it. So a full length steamer usually has a back zip, but it can have a chest zip. And you'd find features on the wetsuit like knee pads, so you don't wear the knees out, reinforced ankles, and within the zip, you've got your standard back zip, so you can, with a tail on the zip, so you can pull it up once you've got it on. And also nowadays, most steamers would have what can be called a range of things, but often it's called a bat wing, or just a gusset at the back. So with a head loop, so you put the wetsuit on, pull the head loop over the top, around there to stop the water flushing down your neck. Then you've got the front part of the wetsuit, which just pulls up, and then you use this tail sort of to pull it on because you can't reach the zip. So you need the tail to reach around, grab the tail, and then pull it up over your shoulder to do it up. So you can get wetsuits anything from 1 mil thick up to, depending on how cold it is, up to 7 mil thick. And then obviously if it's that cold, before you get to 7 mils, you're going to be looking at having a hood. Most 7 mil suits have a hood incorporated into them. The aspects that are going to control which suit you're going to wear are obviously the water temperature, but also the air temperature, and also the conditions. Like, are you going to be swimming around coral? Are there stingers in the water you might want to be careful of? Are there things like rocks you need to clamber over? But mainly is the length of time you plan to spend in the water. If you're only planning on spending 15 minutes in the water or half an hour in the water, you could probably go with a thinner suit. But if you're like, wow, we're going to be snorkeling here for a couple of hours, you might choose a slightly thicker suit, because the water is never going to be the same temperature as your body temperature, which is 36 degrees. So you will always be cooling down. The air temperature might be quite hot, but the water temperature might be quite cold. So don't let just the air temperature govern what type of suit you put on. It's really got to be the water temperature and the conditions in which you're going to be snorkeling. Okay, so the next thing we need to consider are things like gloves and booties that you might be wearing. You've got several options here really. In regards to boots, you can have just a full foot boot. This, like, range of grip on the bottom. You can just get socks, which are a bit more comfortable when you're wearing a fin, and we'll get to fins shortly. But often you may be walking over rocks, hopefully not walking over too much coral, but just protect your feet, that if you need to get out and walk any distance, neoprene socks don't last very long when you're walking over rocks with barnacles or on gravel, or as an approach shoe to where you're going to be going. Once again, this they come in a range of thicknesses. So this, I believe, is a 5 mil thickness in terms of the neoprene, and it's just an open, or like an open toe inside. As opposed to a thinner, you often get these with surfing, you get a split toe. These are not super comfortable for snorkeling, but I know lots of people do wear them because they might also wear them for surfing. You'll often find these tend to be a bit thinner. You can feel your feet better often with a split toe. However, when it's in an actual fin boot, these rubber bits tend to rub on your toes if you're using them for snorkeling, which makes them not ideal, but you can get them. But I would suggest a more sort of full foot non-split toe version is better than this split toe version. And these are often quite thin. This one's only about 1.5 millimeters. And they come in a range. So this is actually a split toe one, but they've actually just put some rubber across the top. And these do still tend to hurt your toes a bit because it's got a spacer in the middle. So it's something to look out for. In terms of gloves, they can be as varied as your boots. They're good to wear, so particularly if you're going to be clambering in and out, just to protect your hands. There's lots of sharp things like barnacles and shells and all sorts of things that can easily cut your fingers. And it is good, obviously, to keep your hands warm. It's always hard to undo clips or do clips up. This is quite a thin one, and a range of styles, and with some of them have like grip on them. You can get leather gloves as well. I've seen people wear gloves that actually have a leather palm, because if you're, depending on what you're touching, you can wear the hands out quite quickly. And if some people are going to try and catch crayfish and things like that, they definitely wear the palms out on those. So you also can see here that it's sealed along the seams, which reduces the amount of water flow in and out. And often your extremities are the first thing to get cold. And so they do make some thin gloves that are sealed up really well. They also make thicker gloves. These are 5mm gloves. So they're considerably thicker. You can see that the wrist is actually gusseted, because when you've got one 5mm glove on, it's a bit harder to grab stuff. So it's actually easier to get your hand in, your little pull tabs. But you can see, once again, without much grip, the glove does tend to wear even just on rocks and things like that. But the 5mm gloves are a lot harder to do things with. Having said that, it's hard to do things with cold, numb hands as well. So it's entirely up to you which one you get, but just a small amount of protection is often enough to make you enjoy your snorkel a bit more. Another feature of boots is you can get zips running up and down here. I don't have any of those with me, primarily because the zips tend to break, particularly with salt water, and you'll often see people swimming around with the zip half undone or fully undone because the zip works its way down. You can get little Velcro flaps that are meant to keep it up. I wouldn't necessarily recommend ones with zips, simply because once they do work their way down, lots of water gets in, and once they're down, it's very easy for it to slip off your foot and lose the boot along with your fin, which I've seen happen a few times, where the zips works its way down and it actually then just ends up slipping off someone's foot. So I'd avoid the ones with zips if you can. Something like this, a neoprene nowadays is quite stretchy, and it's easy to get your foot in the boot. And these boots are all sealed too, so the water in there does get quite warm.